Hi there, I'm Lorraine and welcome to week 3 of Keeping Mentally Healthy. So do you remember last week a little bit about what we talked about? We talked about what anxiety and worry is and about how the body reacts to what it sees as danger to itself. You might remember we talked about the 3 responses to danger. It was fight, flight or freeze. Yeah, do you remember that? Okay, so what we are going to be talking about today is something called the stress container. Now, this is a really helpful way to think about how we all deal with stress and worries and difficult things in our lives. Now, I've got one here. Here's a stress container. Now, it's a very handy clear vase, just so that you can see what goes into it in a moment. But we all have one of these, almost invisible inside of us. And when we take on worries and we have worries, they start filling up. And I'll show you this in a moment. But everybody's stress container will look different because we are all different, aren't we? And what might worry one person is not going to worry the next person and vice versa. But that's okay because we're all different. Wouldn't the world be boring if we were all the same? So what we're going to do is take this imaginary person's stress container and see what happens. We're going to look at the things that are going on in their lives that are causing them to worry. Okay, so now then. Okay. Now, actually, this person has got someone quite poorly at home and they're really worried about them. Okay. Now, this person also struggles a little bit at school with schoolwork, finding it quite difficult and quite hard to get their head around it. And that's a bit of a worry too. Okay, now, this person is having a bit of friendship trouble as well. They're having arguments with their friends and that's causing stress. And it goes, all adding to that worry. And they've got a test tomorrow, a spelling test, and they don't like spellings. And it's really hard. And they're a bit worried about how it's going to go. In it goes. Right, okay. And, now then. Actually, because they were worried about this test, they didn't sleep very well last night, so they had a poor night's sleep. Right, in that goes, that all adds to it as well. Right, okay. Now then. Oh, right, okay. Now they've forgotten their PE kit. Right, okay. What's going to happen if that goes in there? This might be the thing that just tips them over the edge, might it? Now, do you remember? We talked about the brain and that thinking brain and the emotion brain. What would happen if it was just that too much of a worry and too much danger? The body would stop thinking and start panicking and acting. And here's what would happen. They would flip their lid, and can you imagine how that person would react if they're already really worried and then something almost really quite little happens? They would just, how might they react? They might just get angry, they might lash out at somebody, they might burst into tears, they might start panicking, they might just go freeze and think, no, I can't be dealing with this. And that's what might happen. Okay, so that is what happens when your stress container overflows. Okay, now what I want you to think about, there's 2 things I want you to really take away from this. The first thing is that these stress containers, you can't see them inside people, can you? You don't know what worries they have, what difficult things they might be dealing with, what's really bothering them, and what they're dealing with at other parts of their life. You can't see that. So you have to be kind to everybody. You don't know what's going on in their life. Just like they don't know what's going on in yours. You need to be kind to people. Now, the other thing I want you to take away is that we can do something about this. There's lots of things we can do. Okay, so let me think. We could, so all these worries, these problems, maybe we could take a few of them away or reduce them a little bit so the container doesn't get as full. Or we could even make the container bigger. Well, here's another thing we could do. We could almost fit a little tap on there, couldn't we? Turn the tap and almost let some of the worry drain out so your container doesn't get as full all the time. Now, we are going to talk a lot about that next time, but here's what I want you to do today. You just need a bit of paper and a pen, and I've got one that I did earlier. You need to draw an upside down triangle. There we go, just like this. Now, this is something that you can do any old time. Whenever you're starting to feel a little stressed, a little bit worried and a bit anxious, what you can do is just draw an upside down triangle and just have a little bit of a think about what you're really worried about. And I do this every now and again anyway now, and I'm a little bit older than you, so it's really useful. But it's a useful thing to keep in your head that you can take away with you and do any time. So you just have this upside down triangle. What you can do is just start having a think about all the different things that you might be worried about. And actually some of the things, they might be quite little. And until you start thinking about it, you don't even realise that you've been worried about it. But it's a useful thing to do. Maybe in class today, what you could do is together on your table, or maybe with one or two people, just start thinking about the sort of things that in today's world might be causing a bit of worry. So it might be things like worried what's going on with COVID. It might be, the things people put on social media. It might be schoolwork, it could be anything. Just think about the sort of things that people might worry about, or maybe some of the things you know that people you know worry about. Okay, so now then, you could, if you get time, but we are going to talk about this next week too, start thinking about the different things that will help relieve that stress and help us cope with that worry a little bit better. Now, I bet there's lots of things that you are already doing that help you cope with these worries. So if you're having a bad day, what sort of things do you do? You might go run around in the playground and just let it all out by burning up some energy and running around. You might go home and go on the Xbox for an hour. You might watch a funny video. There's all sorts of things you will probably already do. So start having a little think about the things that you can do, and maybe you could help each other with some good ideas. Okay, so that should keep you busy for a bit. And I hope you have a really good week, and I will see you again next time. Take care.